Discover the shocking truth behind Paul's slave remark that haunts today's beliefs. A small town in the heart of America was shrouded in silence, but not for long. You see, whispers of an old speech by a man named Paul had been resurrecting shadows from a past many thought buried. The air buzzed with tension, a thick weariness creeping into conversations. Did he really say those words? Was there a deeper meaning hiding in the cracks? As the sun dipped low, casting eerie shadows across the streets, people gathered in the local diner, eyes wide and ears perked. A waitress, her hands trembling as she took an order, overheard a couple talking. I heard his comment was linked to something scandalous, something that could change how we see things today. Her heart raced. Paul's remark had taken on a life of its own, a creature of myth that choked the air with uncertainty. Every time someone mentioned his name, the diner fell silent. One older gentleman slammed his fist on the table, eyes blazing with anger. You kids better wake up. Don't you see? This isn't just talk, this is a ticking time bomb. The room buzzed with a mix of fear and morbid curiosity. Was this just a rumor, or was the past clawing back into the present? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But just when it seemed the tension would crack like glass, the door swung open. In walked a figure cloaked in mystery, eyes hidden beneath a brimmed hat. The room turned, breaths held. Who was this stranger? Rumors rippled through the gathered crowd. Could it be someone who knows the truth? A young woman gasped, her heart racing. The stranger approached the counter, the weight of secret histories palpable. For a moment, time stood still. It felt as if every person in the diner was on the brink of uncovering something monumental. Could this revelation about Paul shift beliefs that had taken root for generations? What untold stories surrounded that single remark, and who would finally unveil them? As curiosity surged like a tempest, eyes never left the mysterious figure. What shocking truth was just about to emerge? The stranger leaned against the counter, the coolness of the metal a stark contrast to the warm air thick with anticipation. The diner was deathly quiet, every eye locked on the newcomer. He finally removed his hat, revealing a worn but familiar face. It was Mr. Collins, a retired history teacher known for his somewhat eccentric lectures about the town's past. Murmurs washed through the crowd like an unexpected tide. Mr. Collins? A youth from the back blurted out, disbelief dripping from his voice. What are you doing here? The old man raised a hand, silencing the rising whispers. I'm here to talk about Paul. His voice trembled, as if carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He cast a quick look around, gauging the reactions, and then began, You think you know the truth? You're only scratching the surface. The barista poured coffee, her hands shaking, spilling some over the edge of the cup. Everyone could see the urgency in Mr. Collins' eyes, the fire ignited by years of hidden lessons. That remark about slavery, it wasn't just a careless slip. Paul was onto something that would shatter the comfortable world you live in. A palpable gasp ripped through the diner, and the older gentleman sat back, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? He pressed, almost unable to contain his irritation. You can't just throw words like that around. Mr. Collins leaned in closer, the space between them now charged with anticipation. I have copies of the original speech. What Paul said had layers. He knew things that stretch back generations, about how we view freedom and choice. It goes deeper than you think. The waitress, her heart racing now, reminded herself to breathe. Around her, the tension felt like a coiled spring ready to snap. What did he say? What are we not hearing? She urged, clutching her apron as if it could shield her from the truths unsettled within the walls of that diner. "Paul mentioned servitude, but not in the way you're taught," Collins whispered fiercely, his brow furrowing. "His words were a cipher, encrypted in our history. You need to see it in the context of who we've become complacent and willing to ignore the past for the sake of peace. What do we do with this?" Another voice crackled, full of skepticism and fear. "Are you seriously suggesting we've been blind all this time?" Collins took a breath, the heat in the room rising almost unbearably. "I'm saying that understanding Paul's message could be the key to our future," he said, voice steady but rising. That moment, the diner door swung open again, and a gust of wind swept in, carrying with it an unsettling chill. The sound of footsteps drew everyone's eyes to the entrance, where another figure appeared. This time, it was a woman, her face stark with urgency etched in every line. "Don't listen to him," she yelled, her voice ringing with panic. "You have no idea what you're getting into." The room fell into an electric silence, each gaze darting back and forth between Collins and the newcomer. Questions hung heavy in the air. What truth was too volatile to speak? Who was this woman, and what kind of trouble did she bring with her? As she took a step forward, the tension clamped tightly around the diner like a vice. "The history Paul spoke of, it's alive, it's dangerous, and now it's hunting for you." A collective breath was held, and the weight of her words sank into the hearts of everyone present. The past had awoken, and it would not rest until its secrets rose to the surface. What horrifying revelations awaited them? Would they dare to confront the darkness that lingered just beneath their feet? The silence shattered like glass, and the tension thickened as the woman's presence loomed over them. Everyone shifted, their instincts screaming at them to flee, yet they remained rooted, suspended in disbelief. Her eyes darted around, locking onto each face, demanding attention. "You think you can unravel what Paul started? It's not just words, it's a legacy of blood and betrayal." Mr. Collins staggered back slightly, alarm etched on his face. "No," he rebutted, mustering his authority. "They need to understand. Ignorance is what binds us to the past. We're talking about freedom." The barista, her heart pounding louder than the clatter of dishes, suddenly broke her silence. "But what are we really talking about?" she cried out, a mixture of fear and curiosity propelling her voice. "What danger are you hinting at? How deep does this go?" The woman stepped closer, her gaze piercing. "The danger isn't just from understanding Paul's message, it's in knowing what came before it. You've all been lulled into complacency, and now there's a force stirring within those words." A sudden chill swept through the diner again, as if the walls themselves were listening, urging them to digest this ominous truth. "Who are you?" a stout man at the counter finally demanded, confusion turning to anger. "And what do you know that Collins doesn't?" The woman hesitated. Her fear laid bare, the past clawing at her. "I'm here because I know what happened to Paul. And I know what he was about to reveal, something that could shake this town to its very core." Gasps reverberated around the room. Conversation sputtered out, but she continued undeterred. "He stumbled into something dark, something that could bring to light the truths you want to face. History is alive, it breathes, and it has a memory." Mr. Collins' face darkened. "Stop it. You're scaring them. They need to stay focused." He turned to the others, trying to rally them with conviction. "The truth can save us." The woman shook her head. "No, it can't. Some truths should remain buried. You're poking at a wound that could bleed the town dry." She took a breath, her voice lowering. "You think Paul was warning about the past, he was warning you about the future, about a cycle repeating." Suddenly the lights flickered, and a low rumble echoed outside. Curiosity morphed into unease as the patrons exchanged anxious glances. The waitress clutched her apron tighter, her hands trembling. "Is it really that bad?" she whispered, her voice just above a breath. The woman inhaled sharply, her next words like ice. What Paul was uncovering leads to a place where we're all accountable and responsible for change. But change comes with a price. And just as she spoke, the diner's bell chimed with an urgency that mimicked their pounding hearts. You need to decide if you're ready to face the truth, she urged strongly, as if sensing their resolve wavering. Because once you do, there's no turning back. The weight of her warning hung heavy in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Everyone in the diner felt the gravity of choice weighing on them. Would they delve deeper, or close the door on this unsettling truth? But the question lingered. What kind of reckoning awaited them if they dared to open that door? And would they be strong enough to bear the consequences of that discovery? The tension thickened further, like a tightening noose around their throats. As they wrestled with the woman's words, the lights flickered more violently, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Murmurs erupted among the patrons, a nervous ripple spreading through the cramped diner. I don't believe you, snapped a woman at the back, her voice tinged with skepticism. You're just trying to scare us. The woman turned sharply, her expression hardening. It's not fear, it's reality. You all want to believe that the past is behind you, but it creeps in with each unexamined day. Mr. Collins stepped forward, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Let us not argue. We need to focus on what we can do to avoid a repeat of whatever Paul discovered. We can control our future. But at what cost? The bartender shot back, disbelief etched on his face. What if diving into this truth only drags us down into something we can't escape? The woman's expression softened, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. I wish I could tell you that the path forward will be easy. That confronting what Paul revealed wouldn't come with pain. But pain is the only way to break free from the chains of the past. Outside, thunder rumbled like a warning bell, shaking the very foundation of the diner. Rain poured down in sheets, blurring the world beyond the glass. The dreaded sense of being trapped pressed in on them, a physical weight that made it hard to breathe. All right, the barista finally said, her voice steady despite the quaking urgency in her heart. What exactly did Paul find? Give us something solid to hold on to. The woman hesitated again, glancing at the door as though contemplating escape. He found records, hidden truths about this town's foundation, about people who were never meant to be forgotten. But digging deeper, it could unravel everything. Is this about the sacrifice? Mr. Collins's face was pale, realization dawning. The thing they tell us is just a story. It's worse, she said, her voice dropping. It's about the role we all play in the present. The exploitation entwined in the very fabric of our lives today. What do you think those records hold? It's a reflection. A mirror. Frantic murmurs swirled around the diner again. It felt as if the walls were closing in. What do we do? The waitress whispered, panic slowly creeping back into her voice. We decide, the woman replied fiercely. You all must choose, either face the darkness together or continue to live in this comfortable illusion. The choice isn't just about learning, it's about taking responsibility. As her words hung in the air, the bell above the door chimed once more, but this time it sounded like a chilling warning. The diner's regular hum fell silent. Suddenly, the diner trembled beneath an explosive sound outside, something crashing into the earth, rattling the windows and shaking their bones. Shouts erupted from the street, rippling fear that shot through the diner. What now? Someone shouted, panic mixing with adrenaline. The woman's eyes widened, a dawning realization dawning upon her. We're not alone. This isn't just about us anymore. We need to see what they are hiding, because whatever is out there, it's coming for us. With that, she turned toward the diner's exit just as another thunderclap rippled through the air, louder, more menacing. The patrons exchanged horrified glances. And as the smell of rain and something far more sinister filled the air, one question hung heavily among them: were they ready to confront the truth that could lead to their salvation or their destruction? The diner's heavy door swung open with bone-chilling force, crashing against the wall. The curtain of rain lashed against it, the thunder rumbling like some ominous beast in the distance. A gust of wind swept through the diner, swirling scraps of paper and napkins, causing the light bulbs to flicker one last time before plunging the room into a dim. The patrons huddled together, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. What had they unleashed? "Stay here. Don't move." The woman commanded, and with urgency stamped on her face, she stepped out into the torrents. The boisterous clamor of nervous voices fell away as everyone turned to the door. "I can't let her face whatever that is alone," the barista yelled, bolting after her. A few other patrons exchanged troubled glances, then joined the fray. Outside, the rain drummed hard against the pavement, mingling with the hushed murmurs that rose from the crowd gathering on the street. An eerily pulsating light danced behind the trees, moments away from the diner. It didn't flicker or fade, it stayed consistent, a beacon that felt both inviting and menacing. The woman propelled herself forward, her heart racing. "You need to know the truth. It's not just a story, it's a warning." But her words were quickly drowned out by the roar of thunder. The group stumbled into the cold night, drenched in rain, faces illuminated by the flash of occasional lightning. All they could see in that fleeting light were figures moving among the shadows near the old mill, which loomed in the distance like a foreboding shape. Invisible eyes seemed to watch them. The bartender, his bravado faltering, reached for the woman's arm. "This isn't safe. We need to go back." "No. We have to find out what Paul uncovered. This is our only chance." She shook him off, adrenaline momentarily overpowering his doubt. Suddenly, a strange wailing pierced through the night, coiling around them like smoke. A figure emerged from the mill, dressed in tattered clothing, eyes dark and unfocused. The figure's mouth moved, whispering incoherent words. A chill raced down the barista's spine, the voice felt familiar. "Is that?" She started, but before she could finish, the figure collapsed, revealing a tattered book clutched tightly in its hand. Everyone froze as the rain pounded relentlessly, the sky tearing open, unleashing millions of tiny daggers. Mud splattered up the sides of their shoes as the wind howled. "What did Paul find?" She called out to the crumpled form, heart thundering in her chest. The figure looked up, a darkness pooling in its gaze. "I saw it," it whispered hoarsely, words dripping with an otherworldly urgency. "You must know, they will come for you." Panic spread like wildfire among the group. Mr. Collins stepped closer, dim fear slicing through him. "What do you mean? Who will come?" From somewhere in the crowd, a voice shouted, "Get back. This isn't over." The air crackled with electric tension, signaling a storm far beyond just the weather. "Look behind you!" came the jagged cry, cutting through the chaos. One woman turned as a shadow darted toward them, monstrous in size. Faces turned in horror, breaths quickening like thundering hooves. It was no longer just a matter of understanding the truth Paul discovered, it was about survival. As the darkness loomed closer, the woman shouted, "We must face it together. Fight or flee." But clarity was fading, and fear gripped the crowd tighter. With a final glance, dread blazing in their eyes, the followers huddled together, both a shield and a weakness. What would they choose? Would they confront their past, now cloaked in shadows, or would they run deeper into the storm of secrets lurking just beyond the light? The shadow lunged forward, a mass of darkness that seemed to consume every scrap of light around it. Panic spread like wildfire among the group, their breaths quickening, hearts racing in sync with the falling rain. "Run!" someone shouted, but which way? The crowd surged in every direction, a flurry of limbs and faces twisted in fear. The woman, rooted in place, found her voice again, shouting, "Stay together. We can't lose sight of each other." But the moment her words echoed in the damp air, the creature lunged again. It was a grotesque silhouette, undulating and unnatural, as if it were made of shadows stitched together with the threads of nightmares. The barista grabbed onto the woman's arm, nearly dragging her back toward the diner. "If we can just get inside, we can regroup," she exclaimed, but another roar deeper and more chilling than the thunder above filled the space that in that moment. The old mill, the heart of so many whispered legends, seemed to darken even further. The very ground beneath their feet trembled, a low growl emanating from the damp earth, as if warning them of a danger they couldn't comprehend. "Don't look away," shouted Mr. Collins, fighting to maintain some semblance of control. His hands trembled as he held onto a ragged strap from a backpack. "Whatever happens next, we must face it head on." But facing it was easier said than done. Everyone's fear clawed at their throats, choking out reason. The figure from the mill, was it Paul? Was crumpled on the ground, eyes vacant yet filled with an unspoken terror. The book lay splattered in the mud, pages flapping wildly as the wind whipped through, revealing haunting symbols and words that seemed to pulse with life. The woman darted toward it, despite the chaos swirling around her. There was something alive in those pages, a secret begging to be uncovered. "Wait, we need to see what it says," she cried. But as she knelt to retrieve it, the figure stirred, and whispered in a barely audible breath, "You shouldn't have come." The words hung heavily in the air, wrapping around her like vines of dread. That a monstrous howl broke through the night, and another figure emerged, cloaked in shadows but undeniably different, somehow more menacing. It towered over them, eyes glowing a vivid red, pure malevolence drenching the air in despair. The crowd's instincts kicked in, they turned, some retreating to the diner, others frozen in place, terror paralyzing their limbs. The desperation coursed through the woman, ice filling her veins. "We have to work together. We need to channel our strength." She could see the doubt etched on their faces. They were teetering between flight and fight, and she could feel time slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. But just as she took a deep breath to command their attention, something shattered, an intense blare of light erupting from within the mill. Figures began to move, flickering in and out against the backdrop of the storm. Shadows merged with light, creating a grotesque dance. "Help!" shrieked the barista, suddenly grasped by one of the ethereal figures. Her voice became a shrill scream, piercing through the panic. "Someone help me!" The woman stood poised, heart racing, trying to surge past the fear. "We need to fight." But the doubt surged again, wrapping around her like chains. Would they stand and defy the darkness or leave their own behind? In that instant, the glow from the mill brightened one last time before plunging them back into deep obscurity. A shattering silence fell, clutching at the throat of every soul present. In that weighty void, she saw something, the unthinkable truth hiding just beyond the darkness. And before she could grasp it fully, it vanished into the shadows, the air thick with foreboding. "Something is coming," she whispered, dread settling in. "And this is just the beginning." What were the shadows awakening? What truths lay buried in the remnants of Paul's discovery, waiting to rise like a tornado in their lives? The silence hung heavy, every heartbeat echoing louder than before, drowning out the storm's fury. Shadows twisted and writhed, threatening to swallow them whole. The woman's breath came in sharp gasps as she scanned the crowd, searching for a flicker of courage in the eyes of her companions. Then, from beyond the darkness, the ground trembled again. The ethereal figure that had seized the barista released her with disdain, and she stumbled back, panting, eyes wide with terror. It's here!" she gasped, shivering as if the cold of terror had seeped into her bones. "Stay close!" the woman shouted, feeling the desperation claw at her throat. The crowd moved as one, wading through fear, but the shadows surged forward, lunging at them with an unrelenting hunger. Each flicker of light from the mill revealed the haunting forms of the ethereal figures, a grotesquerie of nightmares come alive. Was that Paul's face twisted in agony among them? She couldn't tell. All she knew was that something very wrong had been unleashed. "Look!" cried Mr. Collins, pointing toward the deep blackness surrounding the mill. Wisps of smoke seemed to swirl, drawing everyone's gaze with a sinister allure. In that moment, allure turned to horror as a distant cry echoed the sound of countless souls lost. "Where's he gone?" someone murmured, eyes darting nervously, trying to locate Paul amidst the chaos. Silence stretched, heavy and thick, forcing everyone to acknowledge what they feared to face. They were alone. "We can't just stand here," the woman urged, fighting the chill that gripped her heart. "We have to attack. We can't let it overwhelm us." Her voice, steady though her hands trembled, cut through the haze of fear and confusion. A flicker of resolve sparked in the crowd as people began to inch away from the quaking ground. "Freedom lies ahead," she shouted, channeling the strength of her fear into a call for unity. "Let us end this together. We have to break the hold of these shadows." One by one, faces turned towards her, determination igniting in previously vacant eyes. The crowd shifted, forming a tight circle. The pulsing light from the mill refracted off their resolve, illuminating their path. If only for a moment, the monstrous hull pierced through the air once more, but now it felt different, less like a harbinger of despair and more like a challenge. Their primal instincts collided with bravery, transforming their dread into a powerful force. "Take the book," someone shouted, pointing toward where it had lain abandoned in the mud. The woman barely hesitated. She charged forward, dodging and weaving through the chaotic scene, enraged shadows clawing at her heels. As she picked up the book, an electric jolt surged through her, sending her mind racing. The pages felt warm, alive, pulsing with an energy that resonated within her. The symbols danced before her, answering questions she hadn't yet thought to ask. "Wait." The barista darted after her, eyes wild. "What does it say? Do you know what it means?" "I don't know," the woman gasped, flipping through the pages, desperation fueling her. "But we have to interpret it fast. It could tell us how to fight back." The shadows thickened, drawing closer as the air thickened with tension, the creatures looming just outside the small circle of light. Time was running out, and with it came the weight of a painful realization. What truth lay in those words? What if the echoes etched on the pages held the key to their salvation or their demise? She felt the shadows closing in, a noose tightening around them, and knew they had only moments left to unravel the mystery before it swallowed them whole. "Hold on tight," she shouted, a new resolve solidifying within her heart. "We're not done yet." An eruption of energy surged between them, forming a pulse of collective will. Would it be enough? But before she could grasp that fragile hope, the shadows lunged forward again, and she braced for impact, ready to confront the darkness. What if the book revealed a terrifying truth about not only the shadow creatures but also their own understanding of the world? Could it unveil secrets that turned their beliefs upside down? The first hideous appendage of the shadows grazed her arm, icy fingers brushing against her skin like a warning. Adrenaline surged, and she felt alive with fear. The energy pulsed through her, igniting the crowd. They were in this together. The woman held the book tight, its warm energy contrasting with the suffocating chill of the encroaching darkness. "Focus," she bellowed, lifting the book high. "We must channel our energy into this." The crowd mirrored her, hands grasping the air as they formed a collective force against the shadows. Light flickered at the edges, battling to push back the tide. With a deep breath, she flipped to the page where the symbols shimmered most vividly. They seemed to thrum, awaiting the right spark to set them free. "What does it say?" the barista demanded again, her voice quaking. "It speaks of the right of binding." "We need to bind the shadows," the woman said, her heart racing. "To confront them, we must speak their names." The knowledge felt both liberating and terrifying, each name could unleash chaos. "Help me," she urged the group, searching their expressions for strength. "We must shout them together." Fingers trembled as she traced the symbols with her fingertips. They glowed under her touch, a bright promise amidst despair. She turned to her companions, ready to dive into the darkness together. "On 3. She shouted. 1, 2, 3. Phaedra. Acheron. Nox. The names thundered into the night, echoing back distorted through the winds. As their voices mingled, the shadows writhed and twisted, howling as if struck by the light of their truth, but the ground shook beneath them, and the shadows recoiled, momentarily faltering. They flickered, revealing faces lost in anguish, Paul S. among them. Horror surged through her. Is he trapped in there? Someone cried, dread spiking through the group. We need to hold fast. The woman urged, but an icy grip formed on her heart as doubt crept in. If they could confront the shadows, could they also confront the truth of Paul's fate? As the crowd's jaws clenched, she tore her gaze from the figures within the shadows. We can't lose someone else to this darkness. She gasped, her voice strained. We have to keep pushing. They shouted louder, names swirling in the air, the book vibrating with energy. Another howling shriek erupted, and for a moment, it sounded like more than just shadow. It was the reflection of grief and pain seeping through their own souls. Swallowing hard, she refocused, eyes darting over the pages feverishly. There's something else. The binding isn't just names, it requires a blast of dark energy hurled towards them, scattering their resolve. She braced against the impact, heart hammering wildly. The crowd staggered, fear rippling through them as darkness threatened to smother their courage. What's next? What do we do? The barista cried, panic creeping into her voice. Light! The woman exclaimed, remembering the invocation within the text. We need to summon it. We must cast the shadows away. With that, she focused every ounce of strength into the book and shouted, I call forth the light of the forgotten. The mill responded, pulsing with warmth as a golden radiance erupted from between the pages. It cascaded over them, illuminating faces etched with fear and desperation, urging them onward. The light surged toward the shadows, and she felt a deep connection to each person there, a unity stronger than the fear that threatened to tear them apart. But in that moment of hope, something shifted. The light flickered ominously, and from the depths of darkness, the figure of Paul emerged, screams locked in his eyes. No longer just a memory but a haunting, pleading specter yearning for salvation. The crowd gasped in unison, hearts racing. Time felt frozen, every breath hanging in the air. Paul! She shouted, breath catching in her throat. What did his presence mean for them? Was salvation within reach, or had they unleashed something far worse? Together. She urged, pleading with their collective strength. We can pull him back. We have to believe. But as the shadows recoiled, a single thought pierced through her mind. What if confronting these shadows meant facing the truths about themselves they weren't ready to accept? The book trembled in her hands. Would it reveal a reality far darker than they imagined? The pulse of the crowd surged around her, rising to a fever pitch, edging closer to that terrifying unknown. Would they break the binding spell or succumb to the very shadows that haunted them? The light surged, flickering brightly against the encroaching shadows, but the figure of Paul wavered, caught between realms. His eyes, wide and pleading, shot through her like daggers. Help me! He cried, voice cracking. The sound echoed with a weight that felt ominous and heavy. Don't let him go! Someone shouted, breaking the thick silence. The crowd surged, a wave of determination washing over the fear that threatened to suffocate them. We can bring him back. Keep chanting. The woman urged. We must keep our focus. But doubt gnawed at her resolve. Shadows writhed around Paul, twisting and warping around his form. For every inch of light they summoned, the darkness seemed to claw back, hungry to reclaim its prize. What if he's not what we think? She wondered, barely voicing the thought. Shout his name. Paul! The barista yelled, her voice tearing through the night. Every voice joined in, a chorus echoing across the vast emptiness. Paul! 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 Each chant felt like a lifeline thrown into the abyss. They were grasping at something they desperately wanted, something that felt just out of reach. With the chant multiplying, she felt the book shaking in her hands, the ancient symbols glowing brighter as though they were alive, pulsing with the energy of hope and fear intertwined. Each pulse felt like a heartbeat, the heartbeat of the crowd, of Paul, of the very darkness they battled. But with each endless shout, something dark stirred within her. Memories flooded her mind, conversations with Paul, laughter shared, but also unspoken words, unaddressed fears. What truth lay hidden behind his absence, his shadow now tangible before her? What if the shadows they faced were a reflection of her failures, their secrets? Keep pushing, she cried, trying to drown out her thoughts. The surge of connection with the crowd felt vivid as they reached a collective crescendo. Their voices intertwined, an unbreakable bond in the wake of fear. But just as Paul's image sharpened, the shadows clawed back, tearing at him, tearing at their hopes. His expression morphed into one of agony, a silent scream that clawed at her gut. "Help me please," and then, it struck her. Look at him. Look at his fear. She pointed toward Paul as the crowd unsettled. "We must confront what he is hiding. It's not just a shadow, it's a truth we need to face." The energy faltered. The crowd's focus scattered as they processed her words. "What if we don't want to see that truth?" Someone whispered, a murmur spreading like wildfire. "No. We have to trust," she shouted, galvanizing her voice against the tide of doubt. "We can't let fear consume us." As if in response to her resolve, deep within the darkness, a deeper pulse began to resonate. Echoes of the past crashed around them, their shared experiences, the moments they glossed over. Paul's figure flickered and dimmed, torn between their healing light and the suffocating darkness. Could they really pull him back, or were they only going to unveil a painful secret? The question loomed, heavy and fraught with implications of their mistakes, their fears. "Do we want to see what he has become?" Someone murmured, a tremor of trepidation seeping into their ranks. She felt the ground quake beneath them again, a physical reminder of the stakes. There's only one way to find out. Together, we have to see the truth. As their chants grew louder once more, the shadows quaked, a whirlwind of anguish and anger. Would they step forward into that truth, that reality of loss, or would they let it swallow them whole? The flickering light dimmed, whispering doubts creeping in as the swirling shadows began to form around Paul, a dance of anguish that tightened around him like a vice. Suddenly, the book flipped open wider, revealing a new symbol that glowed, a warning or perhaps an offer. "Tell me what it means." The barista screamed, eyes darting between the swirling darkness and the page. The woman hesitated, sense of dread creeping in. What if that symbol meant they had crossed a line from which there was no return? And in that moment, time froze again. Was the light merely delaying the inevitable, or could they finally break the cycle? The crowd held their breath as Paul's mouth moved, a silent scream that seemed meant for them all. What lost truth was he trying to reveal? Would they unravel the mystery, or would they turn away from the shadows that loomed? The answer glimmered in the air, electrifying, yet daunting. The shadows writhed and twisted, an echoing reminder of lost histories and untold secrets. Within the chaos, the woman's heart raced. She clenched the book tighter, feeling the surge of energy pulsating through her fingertips. Voices rang out around her, mingling fear with resolve, but inside her took root a stubborn spark. This was their moment to uncover the truth. "Paul, it's time to face what you've hidden," she called, her voice slicing through the din of the storm. With a flick of her wrist, she held the book aloft, drawing strength from the courage of those around her. "Together, we are stronger than your fears." The aura surrounding Paul flickered, a beacon of clarity amid the shadow's suffocating grasp. But his form seemed both burdened and radiant, a soul caught in the dance of betrayal and enlightenment. "You don't understand," he screamed. "What lies within the truths of our past? It's not what you think. It may destroy you." "No, Paul," she countered fervently, determination igniting in her chest. "What we face will not break us. It will transform us." And as she lifted the book closer, the symbols began to illuminate, shimmering with promise, casting silvery light over the swirling gloom. The crowd hushed, eyes darting between the glowing pages and Paul's haunted expression. Their fears seemed to mingle with hope, creating an electric charge in the air. One voice broke the silence, trembling yet fierce. "We can't let fear dictate our story." It was the barista, standing tall against the tide of despair. "We're here for a reason. Let us bind our voices together. On three." The woman rallied, feeling newfound strength from the barista's declaration. 1, 2, 3. Paul. 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 The chant swelled, a wave crashing against the shores of their memories, echoing back every doubt and regret laid bare. With every repetition, the shadows around Paul shrank, and his ghostly form began to solidify, a piece of the man he once was stretching through the fray. The lights from the book captured his attention, drawing him closer to their reality, their world. "Stop. You mustn't." Paul cried out, but the rhythm of their voices drowned out his pleas. And suddenly, the encroaching darkness pushed back violently, resistance sparked by a strength earned through shared pain. The air thickened, rippling with the weight of legacy and choice, nudging each individual closer to the precipice of realization. Would they plunge into the past or step into an enlightened future? Just then, the book surged, light spilling forth in an explosion of iridescence. Shadows recoiled, howling as if struck by the raging tempests of their own angry secrets. Paul's figure shimmered amid the surge, pain etched across his face, while his eyes searched urgently. "You need to know the truth. You need to." The words hung, pregnant with meaning. "Face the pain," the woman urged, locking eyes with him, a plea that transformed into the fiery vow of unity. "By facing the past, we'll redefine our future." As the energy ignited around them, Paul's despair started to melt, revealing a hidden truth beneath a truth interwoven with light and darkness alike. I was afraid of what I might unleash," he shouted amidst the chaos, voice thick with history. "But you must understand, confronting our past is not just about bravery, it's about healing." And in that moment, the shadows pulsed, collapsing like a house of cards before the collective will binding them. The truth of their town stood ready to rise above the ashes, waiting for someone just like them to embrace it, to move forward. With a deafening roar, the shadows imploded, light breaking through the darkness in a brilliant blaze. Paul's form shifted, contorted, and for a fleeting heartbeat, it felt as if time had paused. Within the blinding flash, whispers of a past long buried began to unwind, untangling the misperceptions that had haunted their lives. The storm surged outside, but inside the diner, the crowd stood aglow with vibrant energy as if reborn, a tapestry of voices entwined in purpose. Their collective chant merged into one. Harmonious harmony, spirits rising together. In that moment, they realized, they were one, beautifully flawed and uniquely powerful. "Let us bind our legacy to awareness and strength." The woman shouted, holding tight to Paul's hopeful gaze. With that, they unified, creating the light they had once feared to face. In doing so, they reshaped their hearts, unearthing the shadows that had long obscured their vision. As dawn broke over the horizon, the first golden rays filtered through the diner's windows. The darkness that once threatened to engulf them persisted only as a whisper in the air. Paul's expression had shifted, relief dancing across his features as he finally let go of the weight that had burdened him all those years. "Thank you," he murmured, a soft glow radiating from him, dissipating into the light. The woman nodded, heart swelling with pride and humility. They were free. As the patrons exchanged resolved glances, the once fearful whispers transformed into stories of triumph, understanding, and a commitment to remember. Together, they would bear witness to the truth, the beauty in vulnerability, the reckoning within history, and the strength derived from standing together against the shadows of their past. Together she breathed into the morning light, feeling hope radiate through her soul, and as the diner filled with warmth and the scent of coffee, one thing was clear: this was the moment every soul present had waited for. The end was merely a new beginning. So, you need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will reshape your perspective. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let it know you want more content like this. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What do you think it means for the characters? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.